How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, the bring to you is going to be an analysis of the format, more so toward deck building and different things that we can do now because certain cards got banned, so it's going to lead us to other options in the format, and just an overall look at things that I could be doing for Pittsburgh. So I do hope that you enjoyed today's video. Check out my sponsors over at Gem, Cloud, RW, Imperium, Arla, Dragonshield, MainPhaze, and Grimoire down below in the description. Also, definitely go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so we can hit our goal at 30,000. I'm going to start off with by the numbers. So by the numbers, Dracotel is the best deck right now, which is crazy. But you will also have to take in consideration that 11% of Mitsurugi Yummy is still there, and it's not going to be in the individual categories of Yummy and Mitsurugi. So if you do add that in, you will have the Mitsurugi or Yummy or both variant being more popular than Dracotel. But by the numbers, if we're testing out different decks or like pure variants or even like branded Dracotel or like Canine Dracotel, it is the most popular deck at the moment. But you could be playing Dracotel, Yummy, Mitsurugi, or Mitsurugi, Yummy, and having equal amounts of success right now. I think personally the Dracotel deck is like egregiously boring to play. It's just not fun. It's super mid-rangey and just not that great of a deck. But Mitsurugi Yummy is quite the deck, and it's very, very strong. And that's something that we're going to see a lot of people playing moving forward. And I expect that to be like 80% of the room going into the Pittsburgh event. So, couple things that I want to touch on though that are tech options that are seeing a lot of play lately. One is actually just Forbidden Chalice. With the heavy decline of Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler, we're seeing a lot more Chalice right now, especially just because you can use it any time. It's offensive and defensive, and if your opponent goes for like an Arthalion during your own turn, you can go ahead and shut that down. If people are still playing like Shadal cards at some point, right, you can shut down like an early Winda. There's a lot of really good opportunities to use Chalice right now, and it's making a very strong comeback into the format, and it's a very good 3 of right now. You also can be on Gravekeeper's Inscription. I talk about this card a lot because this card is very strong. No special summoning from the graveyard when you're playing against the Mitsurugi Yummy deck. You can use this effect against either or. If you're playing against like pure Mitsurugi, you're just going to say no effects in the graveyard. But for the most part, you're just going to say you can't special from the graveyard. And it makes it a very awkward time for your opponent trying to play the game. And the best part about this is that it is also a offensive and defensive card. So this is something that you can put in going second even. It's also very good against Dracotel if you tell them they can't use their graveyard. It's definitely going to be a very awkward time for them to try to play. So very strong card in general. I like it a lot. The other one is Eschatos. This card is really broken. It's something that we're probably going to see a lot still because you can still just go Banshee for flag for Eschatos. And this card is nasty, especially if you're playing like a pure Canine deck or anything with Canine cards, because we already know one Noroi is like Ripper, Saryuya, and Extension. Just one Noroi. So at that point, you can check hand, see what they're playing, and then summon Reaperdocus, because this is very easy to do, and then just declare whatever you need to declare with Eschatos, right? So definitely going to be a very interesting time. We'll probably see this card pop up a lot more now that Protoss is gone. But I did want to kind of go into my own thought process with deck building going into Pittsburgh and give you a quick look inside my own mind in what I'm prepping for and what I think will be the most optimal list for me. So as for the monster lineup and a fairly standard pure canine list, we're going to be playing pretty much max names on everything that we have except obviously the one Lupus. And I only like playing 2 Lantern. I think 2 is the best number. Definitely a card that you want to see, and you're going to want one later on, but you definitely don't want to open it, and you don't want to see it in multiples. So having it at 2 is perfect. Card is very strong for the deck, and it's a good reset for the deck. But overall, this is going to be the standard number, and you want to have as many starters as possible, right? So we have the Norois, the Jokels, which is great. If you have to normal summon a Lantern, you can, but it's not going to be the best. But we're going to be adding in a few more consistency cards here as well to make sure that we have as many copies of everything that we want as possible. We're going to add in 3 Caster Canine, 3 Chaotic Elements, and then 1 Force Release. These are all going to be very strong cards for the deck. Just unlimited consistency. It's also really broken if you're playing more of a pure variant and you play Chaotic Elements because you do get the additional effects as well, which is pretty cool. I do like playing the X-Force, even though it is a brick. This is a card that's just very strong, especially once we get the new Canine. But I think this is something that is just good enough to play. Just the fact that you can non-targeting blow something up and get to Werewolf is very strong. You also don't necessarily need to summon Werewolf. I really like going X-Force and then summoning out the Jax. I think Jax is crazy. I play the card a lot. but definitely a very strong card and a good 2-pop interruption as well. But X-Force is very strong, and then you also have a lot of consistency in the deck to get to whatever it is that you need. For the rest of the extra deck, playing 2 Ripper and 1 Jax, I really like this as well, just because if you do use Naroi, you need to be able to get the monster off the board by making a K9 Exceed as well. I don't like playing Hound. I don't think that there's a lot of value with it. There's just a lot of other cards I'd rather play. But my secondary engine will still remain to be Thunder. We did end up cutting the Roar. It's just not as great as I really wanted it to be. But just playing the 3 Dragon Dark, the 1 Hawk, and the 1 Gold Sark, this is a lot of ways to making sure that your combo is going to be going through. I was on Small World to be able to get to this faster, but like, the deck does what the deck does, and I'm not necessarily concerned about consistency to get to Dragon Dark, especially because we're going to be putting Saryuya back in the deck. So now we have another way to make sure that we can get into these cards that we want to see. Plus, we already have the 3 copies in the deck and the Gold Sark, so definitely a good opportunity for us to be able to get to that, especially after all the deck thinning that this deck does. After 1 Naroi, you go through a lot of cards, so the odds that you do draw into it are pretty high. One of the cards that I definitely missed in my last profile was Super Poly, and I said it in the profile that I wanted a main Super Poly, but I couldn't find the room. This card needs to be in the main deck. It is way too good right now to not be in the main deck. I'm going to be playing this card 1000%. I like this card a lot, and this is something that should have been there a long time ago. Now, as for the hand traps, I'm going with Astral, Fua, and I'm cutting Shifter. I think Shifter was really good in theory, but at the same time, I didn't really ever want to resolve it, even though you can and play fine underneath it. There's a lot of times where you can combo a lot harder when you don't resolve that card. Sometimes it's an auto win, but if you're playing against decks like Mitsurugi, it doesn't really matter too much, so it's just hurting you more than it's hurting your opponent, and that's a problem. Yes, you shut down cards like Droll, but you also get into bigger issues where you don't even have like a Lupus live or anything, right? And that's really not my favorite. So that's something where that card had to go. And another thing that I'm definitely considering, but in the future this might happen more, is I really want to play Fenrir in the deck, because I think if you're playing Super Poly, the Axon Kicker is one of the best cards, in my opinion, possible for Super Poly. Let me give you a scenario. So let's say you summon Fenrir, and then your opponent sees that you're trying to go battle, so they go, alright, I'll use IP in the main phase, and they go into SP. So on a new chain link, you'll go Fenrir target a card, and then your opponent goes SP target your Fenrir. You chain Super Poly, get rid of Fenrir and SP, and make Axon. That's insane value. It's so good. But I do have a little bit of an issue in this deck, particularly with Fenrir conflicting with something like Azuna, which could be very awkward as well, just because you want to make sure that your engines don't clash, right? But Super Poly in general is a very strong card, and if you can play Fenrir, I think that Kicker is like one of the best cards right now. It's honestly just so good. Playing more of a pure deck, we do have a small Thunder engine. I want to make sure that my hands are as consistent as possible and that we're able to resolve as much combo as possible. So I like playing the Call By and the Crossout with the Prod of Prosperity and the Talent. Just all very punishing cards, and that's something that you really want to see, especially in a lot of the game states that you'll end up in. You could play like Allure, because you play Jokul, you play Lanterns, you play Dark, and that's fine. I've seen the argument for it, but there's not like that many targets for it. I'm not a huge fan of it either. So I'm not going to be playing that myself. I'm also just like not wanting to get drolled as much as possible. That's why I'm playing the Call By and the Crossout. But I think both of them are very strong into the format, considering how many similarities you'll find in the format, especially if you're playing against like a K9 deck. Being able to like cross out an Azuna seems kind of cool. And being able to cross out for engine is always the best usage of cross out, in my opinion. Now to start filling out the rest of the extra deck, I have the Imperial Princess here because it's really good against your opponent if you ever want to steal something from grave or start back into your own engine by reborning something. I use it to bring back the Dragon Dark for the second Colossus, which has always been really strong. I like Valen, and then I like Durendal, because if you open the Droll, then you have the Durendal Droll line, which can just like Trickstar Reincarnation your opponent, which is kind of crazy. And I think that that's something that's just worthwhile to have around, because, you know, artifact cards have just proven to be insane. But I don't play the Nash package. It's too big. I like to be able to have other options in my extra deck, so we're going to be showing off a few of those today. We're going to add in our Colossus, and we're going to add in the Garura and the Mudragon. I like these a lot just because, again, Super Poly is broken, and these are the most generic targets. And then we have Zeus, of course. Zeus is just broken, right? We have such a good option in this card. It comes up a lot for me. It's very strong. Then we have both IP and SP, and we also have the Saryuya, so we can get into our side cards and our Thunder Dragon cards if we need to. I definitely like to have more versatile hand traps for different matchups, so I'll be siding the Bystials and Bell just to give me a larger edge into different matchups where it could really come in handy for me. Siding 2 copies of Canceller, this is a card that I want to be able to draw into or at least open so I can use it with like Jokel and go into my combo or late normal summon this card, or even summon it off of Saryuya. The card is really strong, especially post-side, so you can at least shut down whatever your opponent's trying to do. Leaning a little harder into going second, having Lightning Storms and Duster, I think these cards are just phenomenal and something that you overall very much so want to have. Then for the last 3, I always like having cards just to go first with. Makes me feel a lot more comfortable, right? Just having something crazy like a Judgment, a Warning, or an Anti-Spell, just to make sure that I have that much of an edge going first, because there's not a whole lot of lockouts right now. There's still quite a few. I just think that these are very efficient, especially if you can get to them off of your Saryuya, or if you have to like pros for them. It's something that you can see, and it can just make your end board that much stronger. Definitely feel free to let me know down below in the comment section what you think about the deck list. This is something that I definitely am looking forward to at the next event. I think this is going to be very strong and something that could put up a lot of wins. If you haven't already checked out my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, or subscribed to the YouTube channel, definitely go ahead and do so. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.